Hello, fellow readers. Welcome back to One Lollipop Life. I'm here today to do the mid-year freakout tag. Kind of go over a wrap up of mid-year. I know we're a month in, but this is good for me. Just to kind of recap the books I've read, what I've liked, what I haven't liked, what I'm looking forward to. So we'll just do it mid-year plus 1 month. So we'll just get right into it. Best book I've read so far in 2019. That's a hard question. I've read a lot of books. I've read 47 books so far this year. For me, that's really good. I do work full-time out of the house. I do travel a lot, so 47 in 7 months is pretty good for me. And it was really hard to narrow it down to one book, so I narrowed it down to 4. Sorry. My first one is How to Be a Good Creature by Cy Montgomery. And this is a memoir in 13 animals. And I loved this book. Cy's writing and prose is beautiful. And the way she connected her experience, she's a naturalist and a conservationist. And the way she tied her experience with different animals that she's encountered in her work into life was just beautiful. It just was a really beautiful book. So I really enjoyed that one. My second favorite one, another nonfiction, American Predator. This is the story about Israel Keyes, a serial killer that, unless you follow true crime, and even if you do, you might not have heard of him. I first heard of him on a podcast. He was actually The Stuff My Nightmares Were Made Of. This book is very well done. A journalist writes it. And she goes, it's divided in 2 parts. The first part is about the crime that got him caught, the crime itself, and the victim. And then the second part is about the interviews and the interaction with the investigative team with Israel Keyes himself and a lot of the investigation that they do after they catch him. And it was well done, a little open-ended, but it was still a really good book. My third favorite is Harry's Trees by John Cohen. This one I bought only for the cover, nothing more. And it actually, and I was worried, I read the flap cover, and I try not to do that, but I did read the flap cover, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it when I read it, and it was just delightful. I really loved this book. It's borders on, it goes right up to the line of magical realism, with no magical realism. I call it more serendipity. What I like about John Cohen too is he's very interactive on social media. So if you write about him or comment on his books and you tag him, he'll respond. And I think I mentioned in my introduction video, not just with a line or two, but with a whole story. But this book is just full of serendipity. There's a little bit of a fairy tale in there. There's a librarian in here. Harry is a forester who just suffered a great loss, and he leaves to kind of go get over that and meets a mother-daughter team who suffered their own loss. And it's just really the story of this cast of characters who really help each other and help each other recover and reemerge from some tragedy. And it is really just a delightful book. And my fourth favorite is Jennifer Weiner's Mrs. Everything. And this was another surprise. I'm actually probably one of the few people who've never read Jennifer Weiner. And I read this book and I just loved it. It's multi-generational historical fiction, which is really kind of weird to me because it covers like from the early 1960s to now, multi-generational, and it follows 2 sisters from their childhood up to through marriages, through college, through marriages, through having children, some cases divorce. It's a coming of age, finding yourself, think about those years. It covers everything from civil rights, women's rights, lots of topics covered in here. Some say too much. I thought it was perfect. I really enjoyed it. And my fifth favorite book, which I listened to on audio and I highly recommend, is Daisy Jones and the Six. It was a full cast narration, and it was perfect on audio. I loved it. Another delightful book that I really enjoyed. So those are my 5 favorites. I said 4, but it was actually 5. Best sequel I've read this year, I've read no sequels. I went through all 47 books, no sequels. So I'll have to add that to my second half of the year, but no sequels this year. New release I haven't read yet, but want to. There's quite a few. I'll just name a couple. Ask Again, Yes. The Five, which is another nonfiction true crime. The Five is based on, the 5 victims of Jack the Ripper, and it focuses on them and their story. Rough Magic, which is another nonfiction, which is a memoir. And it is, I don't know, it hasn't gotten a lot of buzz, but it looks really good. I've heard the author's writing is beautiful, but basically it's rough magic, riding the world's loneliest horse race. And it basically tells the story of a young woman who traveled to Mongolia to compete in the world's longest, toughest horse race. She was 19 when she did it. And she emerged as the youngest and first ever female winner. So that's one I really want to read. Biggest disappointment, hands down, That Kind of Mother by Ruman. I didn't even finish it. I couldn't. Biggest disappointment. I was looking forward to it, and I couldn't finish it. That was my biggest disappointment. Biggest surprise. I think my 2 biggest surprise are following my 2 favorites. Were definitely How to Be a Good Creature. I did not know what to expect. This was actually, I subscribed to the email tailored book recommendations by Book Riot. And so every 3 months they send me 3 book recommendations. So essentially 1 book a month. And this was in my first, what we call pigeon mail. And it was a big surprise to me. I'd seen it in Target. I'd seen it in a couple of the bookstores. It's not something I would have picked up. And again, like I said, I loved it. It was a big surprise. And again, Harry's Trees, big surprise, because like I said, I only bought it for the cover. And when I read the flap copy, I did not think that I would like it. I wasn't sure how I would feel about it. Favorite new author or new to you author? I would say John Cohen. Like I said, I loved this book. I really related to the main character. John did a really good job. The main character is a forester, works for the U.S. Forest Service. I actually work for the federal government, and I thought the author's characterizations of the office that we worked in and the bureaucracy that we go through was spot on. And when he commented on my Instagram post, it was basically because he spent a month in the Forest Service with a friend, I guess, who worked in the Forest Service. But he's my favorite new author, probably hands down, or new to me author, I would say. Newest fictional crush. So newest fictional crush. Never have thought about book crushes before. And a couple of the podcasts I listen to, the hosts will talk about the book crush. But I would say, tell me 3 things. This is a YA book. I hate that we can't get these off. I hate these stickers. I know. I could probably peel it off and then use some lemon oil on it. But young adult book, Tell Me 3 Things by Julie Buxbaum. And my favorite fictional, I would say my book crush in here is Ethan. He's the main male character. Newest favorite character. I would say that would be Camilla in Daisy Jones and the Six. I liked her from the beginning, and she maintained that my affection all the way through the end. Loved Camilla. A book that made you cry. This might surprise a lot of you, but American Predator. Specifically the last 5 or 6 pages right at the end of chapter or part 1, and I think it's chapter 5. I don't know, it's right before we go into part 2, but it's when the FBI dive team, I'm gonna tear up right now just talking about it. The FBI dive team's called in to recover Israel Key's victim, the victim that actually got him caught, and the FBI captain's description of the whole event and what they go through was just very emotional, very heart-wrenched, and it really made me appreciate what these dive teams that do recover bodies, and you know, they don't recover a lot of bodies. They do a lot of weapon recovery and things like that, but the care that they take, and how serious they take, and the emotional toll that it takes on them when they're recovering a body, it just was quite emotional for me. That made me cry. Sob, actually, as a matter of fact. Book that made you happy, definitely Harry's Trees. Seeing the pattern here, like I said, just a delightful book, and I just loved it. The most beautiful book you bought or received this year. Wilder Girls, just love that cover. So I bought both Wilder Girls and Harry's Trees for the cover, and those are probably my two favorite and most beautiful. I just think they're amazing. What books do I need to read by the end of the year? I have a unread shelf that is out of control. I have tons. I'll just hold them all up here. This isn't even a fraction, but these are ones that are on my immediate TBR list, either because I'm reading them for book club, or I'm reading them for a buddy read, or whatever. So I've got quite a few here. Pride and Prejudice, Helter Skelter, Rough Magic, The Five, Into the Light, which was recommended by Julie Buxbaum. Hope and Other Punchlines, The Great Believers, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just because, like, everybody loves it and I feel behind, and it's definitely a let's keep up with the Joneses sort of read. Children of Blood and Bone. I'm reading that because the next book's coming out, Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So I missed a question. The most anticipated release for the second half of 2019, definitely Children of Virtue and Vengeance. Can't wait for it. It's December, but I think that's my most anticipated release. So I'm going to reread Children of Blood and Bone to prime me for Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So looking forward to that. So that's it for me today. Hopefully in the next couple days I will do a July wrap-up of the books I read in July, which was 13, the most I've ever read in any month. I think out of the 13 there was one dud. I expected it to be a dud, and I think the reason why I hit 13, reading rush, and I didn't do any videos during reading rush, but I am traveling for the next couple of days, so it'll be, if I do a video, it'll be a little bit different setting, but trying to stay consistent. So anyways, tell me what your favorite books have been this year and what you're looking forward to. Just put it down in the comments. I'd love to see it. Thanks. Bye. Keep it sweet and happy.